Good evening and welcome to a new episode of our program, The Daily Debates, Wednesday evening. I'm Yasmin Bakir. Tonight we are going to be shedding light on the mega projects in Egypt, characteristics for the new Egypt. Now, the economic mega projects have had main characteristics that have played a vital role in the Egyptian economy for the past 6 years, and today has changed the face of Egypt. And not only has it contributed on focusing on just mega projects that serve or attract foreign investors, but also to develop the urban areas, expansion of the new cities and relocating dense populated areas and moving out into the new smart areas. Now we're going to talk about a lot that has been happening in Egypt's economic perspective and how the world perceives Egypt and how the world is very keen on investing in Egypt, as it is a safe haven for different and diverse economies. Not only that, but also in recent years, Egypt has made continuous effort to work on the government in embarking on the key economic and social reforms. We have a multitude on different fronts. We're going to be talking about that with my guest who will be joining me in the studio shortly. But first, let's take a look at the top stories that are heading Egypt today. And Egypt's to hold a new round of Palestinian national dialogue in March ahead of the elections. Now, the Palestinian factions and groups who are participating in the National Palestinian Dialogue in Egypt have announced on that Egypt is going to be hosting another round of this National Palestinian Dialogue to be taking place next month in March to discuss the upcoming steps that needs to be taken before the elections for the National Council in Palestine. According to the statement that has been released, followed 2 days of the talks that took place in Cairo, the Palestinian factions and groups have agreed to pursue a national elections path based on the Palestinian presidential decree issued on January the 15th of this year, 2021. The statement also said that the upcoming Cairo-based meeting will be focusing on finding a consensus on the criteria and the procedures to complete the formation of the new National Council, as well as empowering and improving the Palestinian Liberation Authority. To speak furthermore about what happened regarding the Palestinian dialogue in Egypt during the past couple of days, we're joined over the phone by His Excellency Ambassador Hussien Haraidy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you very much and good evening, Your Excellency.
Good evening, madam. It's my pleasure.
Can you please brief us on what happened concerning the 15 different Palestinian factions that have gathered in Egypt during the past couple of days, and what has been achieved so far on the stage?
Well, the representatives of the 16 Palestinian factions gathered in Cairo in the last 3 days in order to agree on the modalities of the parliamentary presidential elections that are scheduled to take place in May and July of this year, respectively, in addition of the elections of the Palestinian National Council, which is the parliament of the Palestinians everywhere, whether they are in the occupied territories or in East Jerusalem or living abroad. So these representatives came to Cairo in order to agree on the modalities. Who, for instance, who would supervise the elections? What's the police force that would assure security around various parts, whether in Gaza Strip or the West Bank or in East Jerusalem? And in case after the elections after the results are out, in case there are violations or claims of violations, who would look into it? So I guess the first round of the national dialogue among these factions was a success. And as you said, Egypt has called on the Palestinian factions to meet again in a second round of dialogue next month. And we hope that with this agreement, elections could be held in May and July and August of this year, because these elections are very important for various reasons. The first of which is that this will be the first Palestinian election to take place from 2006.
Yes. Your Excellency, how do you see Egypt's support and step as making this a very successful stage for the Palestinian factions? And I believe they have also released statements praising the Egyptian support and role in making this actually happen and creating a pavement for them to actually be able to go into the next stage that will be taking place in March. Now, the Egyptian role in reconciling between the factions is not new. Egypt has always played a very vital role with this regard, but what is your take on today? What does that mean for Egypt to succeed once again in bringing together these different Palestinian factions?
Well, Egypt has always called on the Palestinians to unify their ranks. And of course, since 2007, when June 2007, when Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip, Egypt has hosted various meetings throughout the years between Hamas and Fatah, Hamas and the Palestinian Authority, for the sole purpose of bringing them together again. And in this context, our hosting the national dialogue among Palestinians comes in the context of this policy, Egyptian policy of trying or doing its best to bring to an end the division in Palestine.
Yes, Your Excellency, Ambassador Hussien Haraidy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for joining us on the Daily Debate this evening and for your updates as well. Now, we're going to move, before we receive our guest here in the studio to discuss the characteristics